Good morning, hello, and welcome to the 5311 and 5339 grants webinar. My name is Paula Hyman from the Ohio LTAP Center, and I will be your technical support for today's webinar. Before we begin, just a couple of housekeeping items. If you have questions throughout the presentation, I ask that you please type those into the questions box. Our presenters will address your questions periodically throughout the presentation. Everyone go ahead and locate that questions pod. Just type a quick hello, hi, just to make sure you know where it's located and how it works. Lastly, a copy of the presentations today will be emailed after the completion of the webinar to the group. The webinar is being recorded. Providing that the recording is successful, the YouTube link will also be included in that email to all participants and uploaded to our LTAP website. Thank you in advance for your participation. And with that, I'm going to pass things off to Mr. Todd Barstow, the 5311 Program Coordinator with Odot. Todd?
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing this morning? I appreciate your guys' time and attending this morning. I understand you guys didn't really have a choice, but either way, I still appreciate your guys' attendance and attention as we go through this presentation for the 2022 5311 program application. A lot of things are pretty much the same as they were in the previous year, and there are a couple of new things. It's going to actually hopefully make things quicker and easier for you guys. So we'll go through that here on the presentation. I never actually thought I would say this, but it's actually easier to present in front of people than it is on a webinar. So I'm going kind of blind here. I can't read the crowd and all that good stuff. So like I said, as we go through here, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and submit those in the chat box there, and then we'll get those addressed as we go through the presentation. And hopefully we can get everything covered for you guys, get your questions answered throughout the morning here. So we'll get started the presentation. As you guys know, my name is Todd Barstow. I work here as a program coordinator for the 5311 program. Here's my contact information if you guys don't already have that. I'm not going to spend too much time on some of these. So the agenda for my part of the presentation this morning is going to go through the 5311 program purpose, 5311 subrecipient eligibility, project eligibility, the next steps, and then we'll address any remaining questions once we get through the program here at the end of the presentation. I'm also doing this presentation in coordination with Alex Ewers. He's going to be presenting the 5339 program information once we're done here with my program. So have you guys stick around for that as well. So the goals of the Formula Grants for Rural Areas programs are to enhance the access for people in rural areas, assist in development, maintenance, improvement, and public transportation, encourage and facilitate the most efficient use of all federal and state funds, use the program for public transportation in rural areas. So those are the main purposes and goals for this program. Eligibility, FTA Circular 9040.1E outlines that eligible subrecipients are state and local government authorities, nonprofit organization, operators of public transportation or intercity bus service that receive FTA grant funds directly, indirectly through a recipient. Through Ohio Revised Code 5501.07, it does get a little bit more specific for Ohio specifically. Odot outlines that the eligible applicants to apply for 5311 funding are municipalities, county boards of commissioners, townships, villages, rural transit authorities, and county transit boards. As many of you guys know, we can also have a designated grantee. So if one of those eligible applicants want to apply for public transportation in their area, but they don't want to actually administer the grant, they can designate a grantee. Those designated grantees must be a nonprofit organization, must have the 501c3 status to be eligible to be a designated grantee. And the process for that to be completed, the eligible applicant, like I said, the local form of government or the RTA, they must develop a general scope of service, and then they must advertise and hold a hearing to offer interested private nonprofit corporations the opportunity to comment and provide a scope of service or proposed service that would indicate their interest in that. And then review the organization, the eligible applicant can then review and then select a designated grantee and submit that recommendation to Odot for review and approval. So those designations can run from anywhere between 1 to 3 years, and that's up to the eligible grantee to make that determination whether they want to do that on a year-by-year basis or up to a 3-year, and then renew that from that point forward. All right, so requirements for all grantees. The system must provide general public transportation in rural areas. They must have the legal, financial, and technical capacity to administer the grant. They have to be registered with the System Award Management Program, the SAM registration. They must also have a DUNS registration number. Each of the recipients will then also have a technical assistance review or a TAR completed once every 2 years. And then they also must meet the other state and federal requirements such as 2 CFR 200 and 5311 circular, 49 CFR 18 for local governments, and Part 19 for nonprofits, Ohio Revised Code, Ohio Administrative Code, and other ODOT policies and procedures. So hopefully, I know a lot of things have been quite crazy the last couple of years with the CARES Act grant funding. There's also a potential for more additional funding from the most recent stimulus program that was passed and signed by President Biden. We have not received any indication of if or what the state of Ohio would be receiving. I believe there was, I think, $317 million allocated towards to rural programs across the United States. So I don't know how much Ohio will be getting of that pot at this point. It has not been announced yet. So, but there is a potential for more stimulus funding similar to the CARES Act funding in the future. But until we get that notice, we're going to continue forward with this application process, with the thought being that we're going to be continuing going back to the traditional 5311 funding, where operating is funded at 50% federal and 50% local match, and then the capitalized maintenance expenses with 80% federal and 20% match. Just here are some examples of the typical operating expenses that are eligible under the 5311 program. I'm not going to read through all of these. These are pretty much the same. And then, like I said, the presentation will be sent out to you guys, and this list will be available to you guys in that when that is sent out. And then our capitalized maintenance eligible expenses are listed here as well. No changes here from previous years. Like I said, once we do return to the traditional 5311 funding, away from the CARES Act funding, we will break it back out between operating and capitalized maintenance. So we can go back to that, the traditional matching split there, 50-50 for operating and 80-20 for capitalized maintenance. Excuse me. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so hit the wrong button there. So the 2022 application, as in previous years, is going to be completed in Black Cat. I just want to remind everybody again, Odot is not giving an automatic allocation to systems like they have in the past. You guys need to develop your annual budget for the expenses and revenues that you expect to come in for 2022, and then submit those requests to us, requesting the federal dollars amount that you guys need to meet your goals for your budget there, as well as any general revenue funds that you guys, state general revenue funds that you guys may need for assistance in matching. One thing I do want to point out is just with the limited amount of state general revenue funds that we have in the Rural Transit Program, the RTP, we are limiting individual systems. The maximum amount you will receive through GRF is going to be $300,000. And that's just simply because we just have a limited dollar amount of money. So just keep that in mind as you are putting those requests together. And like I said, that just makes that local support even more important, especially for some of the bigger systems, to make sure that you guys have those local matches available, and not depending strictly on that state general revenue fund dollars. All right, so this is going to be a list of the documents that are going to be required in Black Cat. Or not necessarily required, but are going to be in the application process for Black Cat this year for the 2022 grant program. We have the general applicant form, which is going to be new. I'll go through that here in a minute. The application checklist, package, the certification as assurances, local match certification. And you guys can read the rest of those there. And I'm going to be going through each of those with a little bit more information here in the coming slides. So I'm not going to name each and every one of those, but and so the application documents, as with your 2021 application, last year was the first year that we took a lot of the documents out of the application that you were required to submit with your application, such as your maintenance policies, your drug and alcohol policies, system brochure, all those kinds of information. We transitioned that to be uploaded into Black Cat over the last year. So our compliance section is going to be reviewing those. Obviously, that means you guys are still required to have those in place and submit those for review. They're just not going to be submitted during the application process. You need to keep up on those, and those will be reviewed by the compliance section along with your application that I'll be reviewing. There's a list of those documents there. That should be uploaded into your Black Cat important documents section. All right, so the general applicant form, in Black Cat, you're going to see a certification form. But what we've done here across all of our programs is develop a form stack form to be able to collect general applicant information. Is basically the same across all the different programs that ODOT, Office of Transit here, provides to all across the state. What this will do is you're only going to have to fill out the form stack form one time, regardless of how many times you guys or how many different programs you apply for. So if you apply for 5311 and 5339, instead of filling out the same exact information once in each grant program, you only have to fill it out once in form stack. And then you'll basically, this is the certification form that you'll have to sign and upload into Black Cat for each program that you apply for. So instead of completing all that information multiple times, you just submit it once in form stack and then certify that you've completed that form stack form. I'm just going to go through. So this is going to be the link You can also find in the certification document, when you click on that in Black Cat, you'll have a click here button, and that will take you directly to that form stack form. And then this here is also the link for that. And like I said, this will be available in the presentation that's going to be sent to you guys via email that you registered with once the presentations are over today. And again, you only need to complete the form stack form one time for all programs, and then complete the certification document and upload it for each program that you're applying for. So hopefully that'll cut down some time that you guys spend on completing information, the same information across all programs. So this is the actual form, screenshots of the form and form stack. So you're going to select the programs that you are applying for, and then that will give you additional information here. So if you're applying for 5311, you want to check that you're applying for operating assistance and/or capitalized maintenance. When you're applying for the Rural Transit Program, RTP, what are you applying those funds for? Whether it's matching assistance, if you're wanting to do a pilot project or a service expansion or other project there. So you want to check those boxes as they're appropriate. Then your applicant information. Again, this was going to be removed from the documents from every program. And then you just have to do this information one time for all programs. So I think this will help a lot for everybody, save a little bit of time for you guys. So you just complete this information. And then there's also the contact information. There's going to be separate boxes for the program contact, the administrative contact, and the financial contact. It's just an example of the program contact, but it's the same fields for all three of these. There's also a checkbox if it's the same person for maybe two of these or all three of them. There's a checkbox you can click there that'll copy that information over to all those contacts there, so you don't have to put in the same information multiple times as well on that one. And then the technical capacity, you want to put into this box here your organizational structure. Basically, what policies and procedures are in place, what staff are in place, and how those staff members work together to ensure that the project is successful, the monitoring is done, and then all the boxes are checked and all that good stuff. And then I also want to check box here for all the policies and procedures that your organization may have in place. So if you have these policies and procedures, you can click the box here to mark that you have them. And if you have any additional ones other than this, you can click the other box, and then you've got a text field here to enter those individual policies and procedures into that other text box there. We're also going to be removing the requirement to upload your authorizing resolutions, certifications and assurances, and financial audits from each individual program. Each of those three documents are going to be uploaded in here to the general applicant information, so you only have to have those completed and signed one time. You only have to upload them one time here into the general applicant form, so you're not going to have to submit those. If you're applying for 3 different programs, you don't have to submit those 3 different times. You just submit those one time here in the general applicant form. I want to take a quick break just here to see if there's any questions. So I went through about half the presentation here this morning so far. I just want to check to see if there's any questions or if anybody has any comments so far of what we've covered.
So you have a few questions. It says, will there be a similar program for the OTP $2?
A similar program. There is going to be an OTPP program, an application process. That application workshop, I believe, is scheduled for tomorrow. They'll obviously go into details, but as far as the general applicant form, if that's the question, yes, that same process is going to be done for the OTPP program as well. So if you need more clarification on that question, or if that did not answer your question, go ahead and submit another question to follow up on that.
Next question. As we update those maintained documents and upload into Black Cat, should we delete older versions in Black Cat or keep them there?
For the important documents, you should, as you put in new documents, I believe it saves the older versions. That's up to you if you want to maintain them personally, or if you just want to maintain them in Black Hat there. I don't know, Tyler Bender may be able to comment on that more. I don't know if I can have him speak or not. I know he's in here, but the compliance section, I'll have to get back with you guys on that for a definitive answer on how that's going to be done. As far as the important documents, whether to keep old documents in there or not.
Okay, the next comment says include the information for the authorizing official. I think that's just a comment. And then the next question is, if we do not have first aid and CPR for our new folks because of COVID, will we get a pass for a bit?
What was it again?
If we do not have first aid and CPR for our new folks because of COVID, will we get a pass for a bit of time?
I'm not completely understanding is there a way I can see what the print is of the question, Paula?
Yes, I sent it to you.
Okay.
So we'll skip that for now and I'll come back. If this is our first year applying for funding, do we need to have all these policies in place when applying for the funds?
If you're a new system applying for new funding, you don't necessarily have to have these policies and procedures in place at the time of application. What we will do is any new system that is approved for potential funding, we will do an assessment of your program to see what policies and procedures you do have in place and whether those policies and procedures meet the requirements. And then we can also provide technical assistance to be able to implement or make changes to what is existing, or help you develop what is required as the program progresses.
Okay, and the last question, will there be a way to have a different program contact within one agency for the separate programs? Example, 5311 and 5310, mobility management.
That's a good question. We may need to, I will have to take that back to Macy Moore and see if we can make some changes to add that potential in there. I don't think we considered that when we developed that form. So that's a great question, and we'll take that back and see if we can make some adjustments to that form stack form to make that a possibility to add in different program contacts for different programs. Thank you. That's a good question.
Do you have TARS scheduled for 2021?
You have what?
TARS
scheduled for 2021?
Yes.
Yes, they do. There have been, the 2021 schedule has been completed. I'm not sure if they've reached out and contacted all the systems that have scheduled for 2021 yet or not. If they have not, I'll reach out to our compliance section to see if they can send those notifications out, just to at least let you know if you're scheduled for 2021 or not, and then we can go from there.
Okay, and then Tyler responded to you. He says, if you have new versions of your important document files, you can overwrite the existing versions in Black Cat with a new file.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Tyler.
And there are no more questions.
All right, I'm going to go back to the question here that we skipped because I wasn't able to understand. The question was, if we do not have first aid and CPR for our new folks because of the COVID, will we get a pass for a bit? The answer to that question is yes, because I believe the extensions are still in place through the the health guidance through the governor's office and the health department. So those exemptions will stay in place for the extensions as far as getting the first aid training and CPR for as long as those are in place with the public health guidances. All right, so I think that answers all the questions that we have so far. All right, so I want to start back up here and move on. All right, so and then the application checklist. This was new last year, but we implemented again. Basically, it's just going to go through all the required documents so you guys can have a checklist, and it does require a signature and upload back into Black Cat. The 2022 application package, this is the document where a lot of the information was removed and moved into the general applicant form. Just a couple of things here to consider for new systems, or if you are looking to expand or change your services for the following year that's going to result in additional funding needed. Use this new system or expansion of the service section so that you use that to explain what your changes are, any planning processes you utilize to develop those processes, and then what needs are being addressed. So you want to use that there. In the application package, there are 2 signatures required: the certification of training for drivers and the application certification itself. So you want to make sure that those have 2 signatures there. And I believe it was addressed in the comment from those questions there, the last section about the authorizing resolution. So all of these documents have to be signed by either the grantee signatory official or the designee as it's outlined in the authorizing resolution. So that person, it can be named as a person or a position. So you can name it in the authorizing resolution as the transit director, or you can also name a specific person. But however that's named, it must either be signed. For example, if it's a county transit system, it would have to be signed by the county commissioners, or the person or position that's named specifically in the authorizing resolution. So please keep that in mind as you guys are working on your authorizing resolutions for all of the Odot programs. So here's where the 2 signatures are. Again, for the certification of driver's training, for the PAT drive, regional suspicion, bloodborne pathogen, first aid CPR, and obviously with those extensions in place due to COVID, those are going to be in consideration as well. And then the applicant certification as well, it needs to be signed there. The 2022 certifications and assurances, there's no changes to this document from the previous year. It must be signed by the grantee official or authorized representative. There is a signature block for the applicant's attorney for affirmation, so that must be signed by your attorney representative there for your organization. A couple of things that's within the 2022 certifications and assurances, as in the past, is the 5333B warranty, and then the executive order, the 2019-12D. These are both still in there. Again, the 5333B warranty has to be signed as a minimum by the grantee official or the authorized representative. And then if you have service contract provider, a third-party provider, or union representation within your organization, those organizations do also need to sign this 5333B warranty document within the certifications and assurances. The authorized resolution, we do have a samples uploaded in, will be uploaded into Black Cat for the application if you need a sample of that. Obviously, if you have your own processes and in place for your authorizing resolution, you don't have to use that sample. But again, just another reminder there to include individual or positions that's authorized to sign it other than the grantee officials, such as the commissioners or the mayor of the municipality or whatever the case may be. The next document we have here is the local match certification. This document was new last year, but it's going to be the same for this year. You also must list any of your anticipated contract revenue, contracts, and the amounts that you anticipate from that contract here in the local match certification to be able to show that you have the local match to meet the requirements here for these federal programs. This is a picture of the form. Basically, you want to include any local cash, state GRF, in-kind, or contract revenue. That's going to be a majority of the matching sources there. So you want to list those individually here for the operating match, and then the contract or the capitalized maintenance match. And then again here, list out your individual contracts that's utilized here, that's listed in each of these sections here. The next form that needs to be completed in Black Hat, if you have a fixed route service, we have a ADA compliance certification form that you need to sign. If you do not have fixed route service, you do not have to complete this form. So it's only if you have a fixed route service in your system, you have to do this certification. The next two forms, the ADA Requirements Questionnaire. This is required from all systems, so you must complete this ADA Requirements Questionnaire. And then also there's the Demand Response Equivalent Service Certification. No changes from last year. It's required from any and all systems that provide demand response service to submit that information. The grantee designation letter. If you are a nonprofit organization designated by an eligible applicant, you must have that grantee designation letter from Odot, and then the time, which would include the time period that certification is for. And then as far as the grantee, okay, the incidental use concurrence letter. So if you have approval for incidental use, we need that concurrence letter to be uploaded to Black Cat. What is incidental use? Incidental use is basically when you're using federal assets other than the established purpose of the revenue vehicles, such as the or other FEA assets, such as providing public transportation or maintenance of those services. So a couple examples of what incidental use is. FTA funded facilities utilized to perform maintenance services on vehicles not used for public transportation, such as other government vehicles or nonprofit organization vehicles. I apologize for all the coughing, guys. I know that's distracting, and I apologize for that. And then assist in providing meal delivery services, another example of what can be done, or transporting water samples between a local form of government to laboratory testing facilities, as a few examples there. The proceeds from the incidental use are not permitted to be used during the same federal grant that the proceeds were earned. So that means during the CARES Act funding, if you are performing sold maintenance services, you cannot use those matching funds during the same grant period that they're earned in. And I know there's going to be some of you guys that I'm reaching out to have these services to make some corrections to your invoices, because I believe it's being reported in invoices and on these incidental use forms. So we'll need to get taken care of that, and I'll be reaching out to you guys here in the next couple of weeks to get those corrected if you guys are doing that. But just an example here. So under the calendar year 2020 grant that was extended to at the end of 21, it was a federal grant 2020-005. So any sold maintenance, for example, that was performed and had program income from that under that grant program cannot be used when your invoice is matching funds in the same year that it was earned. The next item that needs to be uploaded here, This is actually, I forgot to take this out of the slide presentation. The financial audit is going to be uploaded into your general applicant form. They just wanted to show this here too. You can go to the state auditor's website and perform a search for your entity's latest approved audit. And then you can download that from the state auditor's website if you don't have immediate or quick access to that from your own organization. So the Transit Reserve Fund, we made some big changes to the Transit Reserve Fund. It used to be the Capital Replacement Fund and was only eligible to be used for matching dollars to capital purchases, but we've expanded the use and changed the name of that to the Transit Reserve Fund. Basically, it opens it up a little bit more so that now these funds can be used to match capital projects, to match operating expenses, or to purchase capital items. Currently, while we have the CARES Act funding, we are permitting systems to take their contract revenue that's been earned and put that contract revenue into the Transit Reserve Fund instead of reporting that on your invoice. That would essentially decrease the amount of federal dollars that you can get reimbursed for that invoice period. And then we're allowing systems to currently move up to 40% of your annual budget, annual operating budget, to the Transit Reserve Fund. I've had quite a few questions on how to calculate their annual budget so that they can get that 40% number. It's essentially all of your entire budget for an entire year, not necessarily your federal amount. It's not your your specific CARES Act budget. It's the entire budget for example, during the 2021 calendar year, it's the entire budget of your transit program would go into that number, and then it would be 40% of that number would be eligible to be transferred into your Transit Reserve Fund. So for the application this year, we have the initial certification form. Basically, it's going to ask you what the current balance is of your Transit Reserve Fund. If you want to continue it, if you don't want to have a Transit Reserve Fund, then you can also sign off for that as well. The 2021 contract documents. If you are using contract revenue as a matching source for your grants, you will need to upload the most recent executed contract to show the support for those matching dollars. So any of your 2021 contracts or any of your contract revenue that you list in your matching sources, you will need to list upload a copy of the currently executed contract for that expected revenue for the matching source, or if it's a new contract for that year, you need to upload information on how that how you calculated the estimated revenue for that matching source. The application period, we're going to be opening up the applications in Black Cat on March 29th, and then applications will be due April 30th of 2021. Not this coming Monday, but the following Monday, the applications will be open for you guys to start working on those. And then again, those will be due April 30th of 2021. Odot will then be reviewing those applications in May and June. We'll be completing application reviews, submit recommendations to Odot management, who will then submit that information to the Odot administration and the state controlling board. All the recommendations do have to be approved by the state controlling board before we can make any contracts or award announcements. So our goal here is to make those award announcements in July. And then once we make those award announcements, Odot will also have to complete their grant application to FTA and then get that approved. And once that grant is approved by FGA, we can then work on the contracts that we would send out to each of the transit systems that were approved for funding. Our goal there is to have those sent out in early November and then have those returned to us in December with the appropriate signatures there for the contracts. And then obviously in January of 2022, if you were approved for funding, then you would start your service or working towards providing service if you're a new system. That concludes my presentation. So if there are any questions, we can start answering those now.
Yes, you have a few questions. The first question is, should we add the RIC grant in the authorizing resolution?
Okay, I'm not sure what the RIC grant is. But if it is an Odot program, that's up to you if you want to include that in the same authorizing resolution. Oh, I'm sorry, the Rights for Community Immunity. That's what the RIC program is there, I believe, is what they mean. But yes, you can include that same language in the same authorizing resolution. That's not a problem there.
Okay, and then what is the PAT drive training required?
I'm going to see if Tyler Bender can answer that question. I don't know if he's still on here or not. I don't see his name there any longer.
Yeah, I think he's gone, but if he is, he'll respond. The slide that says a percentage of contract revenue for the TRF, can you elaborate on that? Or is that just talking about the 40% of the budget? Here, I'll put this in the chat for you.
All right, okay. Make sure I understand the question. The percentage of contract revenue, that is still in there because basically during the CARES Act funding, we're allowing all the systems to move all of their contract revenue to the Transit Reserve Fund up to the 40% number. The percentage of contract revenue goes back to when we get to the traditional 5311 funding. At that point, we'll start looking at the percentage of the contract revenue that can be moved to the Transit Reserve Fund based on what your current balance of the Transit Reserve Fund is. So you don't have to worry about the percentage of contract revenue at this point in time. But once we do get back to the traditional 5311 funding, essentially we don't want to make the Transit Reserve Fund an unlimited number there. So once we get back to the matching sources, a portion of your contract revenue would have to be reported in your invoice, and then you can move a certain percentage of that to maintain your Transit Reserve Fund there. So that's what that was referring to. All right, it looks like the next question is when are applications due? Applications are due April 30th of 2021 by midnight on April 30th, 2021. If requesting state GRF is that to be applied for on OTP2 as it was required last year? Essentially, you can apply for both. You'll need to include the amount of GRF in your project in Black Cat. And I do want to cover that real briefly here. I'm going to move. That brings up another point that I want to make sure we discuss here. All right, this here is the project development here in Black Cat. So as you're going through and developing a project, you're going to have these categories in Black Cat, operator salaries and wages, and then you can list the amount there for that project. And in this comment field, last year we had a budget justification form, but now that justification is going to move here into Black Cat. So you want to use this comment field to outline how this number was developed, where the, what was the basis of that request. And then also that includes the revenues here as well. So any of your state GRF operating assistance request can go in here. If you want to apply for it also in OTPP, especially if it's over and above the $300,000 that we're limiting the GRF requests in for the RTP program, I would recommend doing that. And one of the comments here is PAT training is passenger assistance training. So that would be if there's, wheelchair bound or what those assistance to be provided to passengers to be able to get on and off the bus or vehicle there. Question, did you say the max GRF for operating would be $300,000? Yes, the max GRF request that will be approved in the RTP or Rural Transit Program will be $300,000. If you need operating assistance over and above that amount, you will need to apply for that through the OTPP program. And I do have one update, and then I'll need to confirm for sure. Applications may be due May 7th, but I'm going to get that information confirmed.
And Todd, we can put that in the follow-up email to everyone.
What was that?
I can include that in the follow-up email to all attendees.
Okay, that'll be perfect. So stand by on the due date. It'll be at the earliest, it'll be April 30th, but it may be extended to May 7th. So we will confirm that in the email, and then I'll also send out a follow-up email just to make sure that that is clear when that due date is for that. And also have a comment that the PAT, the passenger assistance training, has also been on hold. So that is also going to be extended there as far as those requirements to meet that training requirement as well. Are there any other questions?
We have no other questions at this time.
All right.
Okay, one more just came in. I'm sorry, one came in.
Okay.
Will the budget document be different this year? Last year, I had to use a previous template.
The budgets will all be done in Black Hat this year. There won't be any separate Excel document to do the budget justification or the budget document itself. Everything will be done in Black Hat. Here, what's what I'm currently showing on my screen. This is the project worksheet to submit a project that ultimately builds your budget. So this is what's going to be used for your project budget and the project budget justification. So you enter in your budget requests here, and then also in the comment field, you'll want to upload, put in there how you came to that number, what that number includes. That's especially important, like in the all services, some of these more generic categories. You want to include what those costs include as well. It's not just how you came up with that number.
A question came in, is the budget information on Black Hat now, and does it add up on its own?
Yes, it does. It does add up on its own, and you can create these projects budgets at any point in time. You don't have to wait for the application period to open to start building these projects. And then once you get into the application itself, you will then select the projects that you wish to attach to your application. So you can build these projects in Black Hat right now.
No other questions.
All right. with that, we're going to go ahead and take a short break since we've been going for about 50 minutes here. Why don't we take just some time to kind of get up and stretch if anybody needs to go to the restroom, anything like that. We'll have Alex restart the 5339 presentation at 10 o'clock. So that gives everybody about 10 minutes just to kind of stretch and relax and get up and go use the restroom if anybody needs to do that. In the meantime, if you guys have any additional questions, you can go ahead and ask those now, and then we can get those answered before Alex starts up with his presentation at 10 o'clock.
Good morning, everyone. It's been about 10 minutes here, so let's get started back up. So my name is Alex Ewers here. We're going to get started here with the 5339 application walkthrough here for the 2022 calendar year. So thank you all for staying here this morning and, continuing for another one of these, workshop lectures here, and hopefully, be able to explain the program for you, explain the requirements, explain the documents that are going to be needed here for the application, and then, answer any questions that you have along the way. So, first of all here, we're going to start with my information here. I'm Alex Ewers, 5339 Program Coordinator. A lot of you already have my information. If not, it's here, and then you'll be able to see that again in the application, document presentation here that'll get sent out afterwards. So here's that if you need it. So a few things here. We'll start with the program purpose. 5339 program, the bus and bus facilities program here. The goals of this program is to assist eligible recipients in replacing, rehabilitating, and purchasing buses and bus-related equipment, to renovate and construct bus-related facilities, and to overall ensure that public transit systems in Ohio have vehicles, equipment, and facilities of sufficient quality and quantity to ensure that they can provide safe, effective, and efficient public transportation to the people of the state. Well, what does that mean? In short, the purpose of the bus facilities program is to fund capital purchases in order to help support public transportation. So projects under this program should support the provision of public transportation either directly or indirectly, either directly through the purchase of vehicles to provide transportation, or indirectly through equipment to maintain vehicles, to support transit service, or facilities there to house vehicles and personnel that help, operate the transit service. So with that, obviously comes requirements. Every program has them. So some of it is some basic requirements that you need to be providing public transportation service in a rural area. You need to have sufficient legal, financial, and technical capacity to be able to operate that service and operate the your projects there under the program here. You need to have a system of award management, a SAM registration there. You need to have a DUNS registration as well. So please note that DUNS registration will be changing to a unique entity identifier here in April of 2022. It was supposed to be changed, last year, December 2020 there. Obviously, that got delayed a little bit because of COVID, like many other things. But you are going to want to go into SAM.gov and update that, and then update it in Black Hat as well. And then you obviously need to follow any other requirements that FGA determines or that Odot determines as well. So a few things with that. And then what's eligible? What can you actually get money for here? So first of all, under 5339, only capital projects are eligible, not operating. But the things that are eligible include, vehicles, computer hardware and software, shop equipment, radios, cameras, facility rehab and renovation, bus shelters, new facility purchases and new facility construction, all those sorts of different things, all these different, eligible capital items. So, however, all those individual types of projects have their own requirements as well. To start off with here for vehicles, there's purchasing requirements. Odot is going to be the one to actually purchase those vehicles. The system has to use our vehicle cost worksheets that we send them. They're going to have to be invoiced for the local share, their portion of the cost, and send that invoice that money to us before we purchase those vehicles. And then Odot is going to have a lien on that title and going to maintain physical possession of that title until that vehicle is ready for disposition. So several requirements related to purchasing those vehicles. Then there's cost requirements. All these vehicle projects here coming up are going to be 80% federal and 20% local. But that means we're going to need 20% of the cost of those vehicles from you before those vehicles can be purchased. So other requirements for vehicles include disposition requirements. Those vehicles that we're buying for you, you need to use, have them a certain age and mileage there before they're eligible for disposition. So for most vehicles, the MV, AV, MV1s, LTLs, and LTNs, it's going to be 5 years and 120,000 miles, or 150,000 miles, regardless of the years. For the larger vehicles, the LTVs, both fiberglass and honeycomb, it's 6 years and 150,000 miles or 200,000 miles that you have to use on those vehicles before they're eligible for disposition. Now, please note, you don't have to get rid of these vehicles as soon as it hits, 5 years and 120,000 miles or 6 years and 150,000 miles. No, that's just when they're first eligible for disposition. And the older those vehicles are and the more miles that they have on them, the better they're going to be scoring later on. So please note that, a vehicle that's just at an MMV that's just at 5 years and 120,000 miles is not as likely to be replaced as, one that's, say, at 7 years and 180,000 miles. So please bear that in mind when you're applying for disposition for replacement for various vehicles. So other requirements. There's more requirements for vehicles. Got to be reporting on those vehicles. There in your Black Cat inventory, you need to be updating your mileage and your status of your vehicles every quarter there. So you're just going to want to go in, update the information there on your fleet, and move on. You only have to do it once a quarter there. And then usage requirements. Vehicles need to be used for the program purpose only. That's public transportation there. That can include, contract trips, but shouldn't be used for, non-transit activities. So again, these vehicles are federally funded. You're getting them here, 80% federal here. Use them for the program purpose. And then, but that's only, one part of what the program is. Beyond, the vehicle requirements, there's other capital projects, and those have their own requirements as well. So for other, non-vehicle projects here, you need to follow requirements on procurement. So you're going to need to follow the procurement checklist there. That's located in Black Hat. It's updated, every so often with new information. So these types of, non-vehicle capital projects have different levels of requirements depending on the size of it. So under $10,000, it's a micro procurement, fairly minimal requirements associated with it. Between $10,000 and $50,000, the small procurement, there's a moderate amount of requirements associated with it, including requiring Odot concurrence before you make that purchase. And then, more than $50,000 for that project, that's going to require a formal procurement there with either an RFP or an ITB and concurrence from Odot at multiple stages in the process. So please just be aware of these levels of requirements here in advance of, doing your projects. There's going to be some stuff that you have to do for that if you want to get these projects reimbursed. So again, also for these projects, these are reimbursement-based procurements. That means you need to be spending the entire cost of the project in advance and then get reimbursed for Odot for just the federal portion. So if you have a project in here for a non-vehicle capital project that's going to be, $100,000, that means you're going to have to be able to spend that $100,000 in advance and then get that money reimbursed from Odot. Also, these projects have the same, federal and local cost ratio here as for vehicles. It's going to be 80% federal and 20% local. And then some projects require environmental review. These projects can take a significant period of time. Please be aware of that. So things like, bus shelters, facility renovations, parking lot repair or expansion, new facility purchase or construction, or anything else determined by FTA might require environmental review by FTA for these projects. So we're going to need more information in advance for any of these, including information on the location, nearby buildings, and all of that, as well as anything else determined by FTA. And that means these projects can take a significant period of time before you get them approved. Please be aware of that. I'm not telling you not to apply for them at all. That's not what I'm saying. Just be prepared that, these projects might take a longer period of time. So just something to bear in mind. Then more requirements here. Few reporting requirements. You need to maintain records of your procurements there for all your capital projects, maintain records of your assets there, and all those assets added to your Black Cat equipment inventory or your facility inventory there. And then if we do an inventory review there, we're going to need to have everything able to be inspected there as we do that. And then period of performance here. You typically have 12 months here to complete your projects. And if it's not complete in that time period, the project may be canceled. Please be aware of that. So if you're applying for something here for 2022, you have until December 31st, 2022 to get that done. So something to bear in mind there and think about what you're able to get done. So does anyone have any questions here on this first part of the presentation here? Anything about the basic program requirements or specific requirements about types of projects?
Okay, I have a couple questions here. And it says, I thought we had to include furniture and things like that in the 5339 now.
Yes, I believe that they have been instructed that those types of projects should be applied for here under the 5339 application.
Okay, next one.
The list of projects I included in there was, not exhaustive, but just some examples of projects.
Okay, does the environmental review requirement apply to OTP2 approved projects?
I can't speak for that. I don't believe, all the same requirements are in place because that is, state funding as opposed to federal. This is specifically for, projects that you're applying for here through the 5339 program. I do believe there may be less requirements associated with that with the OTP2 program, but I can't say for sure. You'll need to ask that specifically in your OTP2 workshop there. I can't speak for requirements specifically for that program.
Okay, I believe this says, is putting a fence around an existing lot required? Does it require an environmental review?
Probably not, but I would want to, talk with you specifically about that individual project. I can give you a better idea at some point. So if you want to contact me afterwards to give me a little bit more specifics about that particular project, I might be able to better answer it. But probably not, but I won't guarantee that now.
Facility projects, do they need to be completed from start to finish within 12 months?
To clarify for that, if you're doing like a new facility construction project, no, it wouldn't have to be completed in a single year. So that would be an exception to that. But if, otherwise, projects for, the vast majority of projects are going to have, a year to do it in. There might be some specific exceptions there for, something like a facility construction, but in general, you do have a year to do them.
And there are no other questions at this time.
All right. Well, in that case, I'll be moving on to the next section here of presentation. So next part here is, well, let's try that again. Application. Application is going to be done in Black Hat, just like always. If you don't have a login for some reason, if you're a new system and you need to get a login for that, be sure to request it ASAP so you can get started. There is scoring in place for 5339 applications. It's fairly similar to last year, though it's been tweaked a little bit. So please be aware of that. There is scoring, and not all the projects will get funded. So now let's walk through the actual application documents here. And let me switch over here to Black Cat, where I have them uploaded right now. And give me just a moment here. All right. So a few things here, though not all of this is necessary for every project. So let's start with the things that are necessary for everyone, starting here with the application checklist. So this will open up, and then we can walk through this one. Maybe. Sorry, it's taking a minute. All right. So first thing here is, everyone's gonna have to do is your application checklist. It can be divided into three parts, really. This primary checklist here that everyone's gonna have to do regardless of what type of project they're applying for. So you're gonna basically, make sure this is completed, check it when it's done. Make sure it's been completed, check it when it's done. So this first page here is gonna need to be done by everybody. Then, if you're applying for vehicle projects, you have these specific ones that you have to do. So you can complete it when it's done, and put a check here. If you're not applying for any vehicle projects at all, you can just mark NA for all of these. And then, third part of this checklist is if you're applying for other non-vehicle capital items here, you're going to complete these things down here and check it. If you're only applying for vehicles, you can just mark not applicable here on this part. And then the last part of the checklist is a signature and date. And this should be signed by the person, indicated in your authorizing resolution. So please be aware of that. So that's your application checklist here. This has to be done by everybody who's applying for 5339. So that's the first thing there. Next thing here is going to be your general applicant information certification. It's going to be the same thing that Todd was talking about earlier here. So going to be looking at the exact same form here. It'll open up. And so again, it's going to be the same information here. And this link is going to take you to that same form stack there. So once you've done the form stack there, you can take this certification and upload it. And we can use the exact same certification that you downloaded from 5311. You can use the exact same thing here. So you only need to download it and sign it once. And then you can upload that signed document into all your different applications. So pretty straightforward here. And hopefully, having that single, general applicant information form there in form stack and having you do it once for all the programs will help reduce the amount of time you need to spend on that versus having you repeat that exact same information in every program application. So hopefully it'll, reduce the amount of work needed for you by a little bit anyway. So next thing there. Next thing here is going to be your application packet. And this is, similar to previous years. So it has had quite a bit taken out. All the, standard information there that was in your general applicant information form. So pretty straightforward here. Basic information, some definitions. Now we get right into the heart of this. What type of projects are you applying for? We're going to put checks next to everything, that all the different types of projects you're applying for. Then some project specific questions. If you're applying for any vehicle projects, you need to give us a little information here on your fleet. And then specific information here on the types of vehicle projects you want. So if you're applying for any replacement vehicle projects, you're going to need to complete this section here for each vehicle being replaced. And this is pretty similar to previous years with basic information about what vehicle you're replacing and then what you want to replace it with. I did a couple of new things on here as well that I want to talk about. So here we get into something new. If have a question here on if getting a vehicle replaced here with a new one will reduce your maintenance costs. So is having this new vehicle in your fleet as compared to an older one going to reduce your maintenance costs? Yes or no? If yes, about how much do you expect it to save you in capitalized maintenance costs? If not, why don't you think having a newer vehicle as compared to an older one would save you money? So you're gonna have to answer these questions here for all your different replacement vehicles that you're applying for. Having about 5 slots in here, though if you want to replace more than 5 vehicles, you can certainly copy this and add in additional sections. And then get down here to expansion vehicles. So if you want to do any expansion vehicles, you need to fill this out. If you're not applying for any expansion vehicles, you can ignore this section. For each expansion vehicle here, you got several things to answer here. And some of this is similar to previous years. They've added a couple new things, what type of expansion vehicle, what service will you be providing, how many trips you're gonna do. I've also added in some questions here about how many miles you expect that vehicle to travel. And then, some questions here on the evaluation process that you use to say, hey, yes, I need expansion vehicles. And then lastly, some additional questions here. Is having this additional vehicle in your fleet going to increase your operating costs? If so, or your maintenance costs? If so, about how much do you expect it to increase? Or if not, why don't you think you're going to have an increase in costs? And then the last question here is about scalability. So if you're asking me for 4 expansion vehicles, will you still be able to do your planned expansion if you only get 2 rather than the 4 expansion vehicles? So is your project scalable? So if you don't get everything you want, can you still want any of it? So be sure to let me know that for all your individual expansion vehicles that you're asking for. So again, you have a few sections here for these. And if you're gonna be applying for more expansion vehicles than here, you can certainly add in more sections. So next we have here questions on some bus shelters. Again, if you're not applying for any bus shelter projects, you can ignore this. Just some basic information there about the shelter and the location for it that you want to be applying for. Next section here is for regarding facility projects. Again, if you're not applying for any facility projects, you don't need to do anything with this, section here. So some questions here on facility, where it might be, what other buildings might be nearby, everything like that. Some basic questions here on incidental use. And then lastly, certification and signature down here. Again, this should be signed by the individual, indicated on your authorizing resolution. So this is the application packet. Fairly similar to previous years, though it has been tweaked a little bit. Next thing here needs to be done by everybody is your local match certification form. So let me open this up here real quick. So a couple things here on this. It's going to be pretty similar to the same form as last year here. Some instructions here on this first page. And then information here on your projects. So you're going to put the project ALI, what the total cost is, how much you're looking for in federal funding, and then where the local match is coming from. So, here are some examples up here. Okay, what's the ALI, total, federal, and the local. So you can see on here, all these different sources of local match add up to 20% of the cost of this project. So please note, these don't all have to be from the same source. They can just be from, one source. So you could have 4 different sources here for local match for these projects. Couple things to remember, can't use things like, contract revenue directly. It'd have to be put in, your transit reserve fund and pull it out of there. Can't use things like Farebox for this. But there are other sources here that you can use as local match here. And then, plenty of space for you to do on these. If you have more projects for some reason that, you don't have room for, you can certainly add more lines. And then lastly, come down here, so have some basic questions to ask about whether you're using in kind, whether you're using the same match force for multiple things, and whether you're using state GRF. And then certification and signature down here. So pretty straightforward. You guys have seen this document before. It's, for the most part, it's the same thing as last year. So pretty straightforward there. Next thing here is going to be your table of organization. Basically just asking you to upload that here into Black Cat. So just want to take a look at that. Pretty straightforward there. So, hey, here you go. Upload your table of organization in Black Cat there, and let me take a look at it. So that's the last thing that's going to need to be done by everybody. So now we get here into some things that some people may need to submit, but not everyone. So the first one of those here is your grantee designation form. So again, this is similar to here for your 5311 there. If you are a designated grantee there, so in other words, a nonprofit designated by, a city or county government there, you're going to need to fill out some information on here just about what, your governmental body is there, when the designation period would be. Have you, gotten concurrence from Odot, or have you communicated with the governmental body if you're a new nonprofit interested in this? So pretty straightforward. And again, this is only, for, nonprofits here, designated grantees here. If you're already a local governmental body there, city or county government, transit board there, you don't need to be filling this out. So next thing here that some people will be doing is your cost estimates form. And this is something that's going to be required if you're doing non-vehicle capital projects. So let me open this up here. All right. So cost estimates form here. Again, instructions here on this first page. And then we get to this form here on the second page. And for this, you're basically going to be saying, okay, what project is it? What's the ALI, cost, federal and local, and then have you done a couple of things for this? Did you do an ICE for this and upload it here? Cool, mark that. Did you, include any other supporting documentation? Yes or no? Just let me know. And you're going to upload all that information there into the document section there of the application. And please note, all the independent, every one of these projects that you're applying for, all non-vehicle projects here, need to have an independent cost estimate form completed. And you can, also do additional, supporting documentation there showing additional costs there. But at least the ICE needs to be completed for every project. If you don't do it, there's going to be problems. You're not likely to be funded for any projects that you don't put an ICE in there for. So please be aware of that. So pretty straightforward there. Again, this same ICE form here needs to be done for all non-vehicle capital projects. Don't need to do this for vehicles, obviously. But, most of you have seen this form before here as you're doing, various procurements. You can use it here. You can fill out your name, what's the estimate, what type of project is it that you want to apply for, where are you getting this estimate from, sign and date it. And then this, independent cost estimate form will be used later in the procurement process if you end up getting awarded this project. So if you do this now, it'll save you a little bit of time for all those projects that you get awarded later on. So the last thing here for these non-vehicle capital projects, justification timeline form. So this is going to open up. And again, this form, also only needs to be completed for non-vehicle capital projects. So you're going to be saying, why you want this project, why you need it to be able to provide your service there. And then, how quickly will you be able to get this project accomplished? So with this then, okay, what is the project, what is the cost, and why do you need it? What would be the consequences of either getting it or not getting it? How is it going to help your transit service, or how would, failing to have it hurt your transit service? And then same thing here is, okay, what is this project? How much is it going to cost? And how long will it take to start the project? And then how long will it take to complete the project? So information to use there that'll be used for, scoring and will be, judged in the future on whether you can actually make these timelines. So something to be aware of for that. But again, it's, basically the same form as previous years. You've seen it before. And again, it's only needed here for non-vehicle capital projects. So all those things are, again, these previous three forms, cost estimates, ICE, and justification timeline are only needed for non-vehicle capital projects. So now we get down here to vehicle cost worksheets. I'm not going to go through all these worksheets because, you've all seen them before, but let me pull up one of these here so we can talk about that. So worksheets here. Couple things to be aware of for these. And this will open up and I will explain a little bit more. All right. So a couple things for these. First of all, for all the vehicles except for the MMV, there will be multiple vendors. So you're going to see multiple tabs here with different vendors here on them. And then a couple things for them. You're going to indicate priority up here. If you can, be applying for vehicles here, how many, what order is this particular vehicle going to be? So, if you can only get one vehicle, is this the one you want? If not, okay, it's going to be the second, third, or whatever. So just let me know on that. Also, a couple things on here. You're going to indicate these with, one vehicle per vehicle cost worksheet. So if you want 5 LTLs, you're going to submit 5 separate LTL worksheets on here. Please remember that. 1 vehicle per worksheet per project. So I'm going to fill in some information on here and say, these are the things I want. I'm just going to click a couple of random things on here so we can get some numbers. And okay, we come down here. And we can see here we have a total cost, then a contingency, then a grand total cost amount. These ones here in bold, this grand total cost, federal share, and local share are the numbers you will use for this application. That's the number that's going to be for the project, for your local match, for the federal amount being asked for. All these numbers here in bolded. If you give me something that has this $83,000 number here, this total cost for one of your projects, I will be sending it back. We want this grand total cost amount. please do not give me this number here. I'm gonna have to send it back. You're gonna have to change it. You're gonna lose points. No one wants that. So please remember, use the grand total cost amount. So that's something that's definitely been, a problem in previous years, and we don't have to have that happen again this year. So please bear that in mind. So it's gonna be the same thing on all these vehicle cost worksheets. Gonna want to upload, one vehicle cost worksheet per vehicle per project. So you might have, several of these vehicle cost worksheets that you have uploaded into the documents section at the bottom if you're applying for, several replacement vehicles. So please just bear that in mind. So that's all these things for all the different vehicles. And these are all the, updated vehicle cost worksheets. And please note that the vehicle costs are estimates only. We will be going out for a new vehicle term contract before next year. So the vehicle prices might change slightly between then and now. That's why we have that contingency fee in there. And that's why it's very important to use that grand total cost amount. So that's all those worksheets here. Have all the different types in there, which is why there's, so many different documents in here. Last thing in here is, just this brief announcement there regarding the vehicle contract information there, talking about how there's multiple vendors. So just on there about that. And then if we, get the new vendors in there, we'll probably replace this with new updated information. So just a quick announcement about that. And then a couple more things in here that you can download from here, but that you're not going to upload into here. We have, the certifications and assurances, which is the exact same thing that you can pull down from the 5311 application here. And again, you're going to take this and fill this out, but you're going to upload this instead into that general applicant information form there. So please be aware of that. You will not be uploading this into your Black Hat application anymore. You'll be uploading this into that form stack general applicant information form. So here's that. You can pull it down from here though. You can also pull down sample authorizing resolution. So again, this just is a sample. You can use, one authorizing resolution for all your different ODOT programs. And when you have gotten that, you will upload it there into form stack into that general applicant information form. So here's just a sample here. Can be modified and used as your organization sees fit. So last thing in here, you can download, but you don't upload here is application scoring criteria. So I can just walk through this here with you real quick. So again, this is very similar here to previous years. I've just tweaked it slightly. So I'll mainly go over the tweaks there. So basically this stuff is here the same, what type of federal funding are you receiving? Have you had a TAR here and what type of findings are you looking at? Fewer findings is better, you score better if you're doing things well. Did I have to send things back to you for corrections? Have you been failing to complete capital projects that you were awarded? If so, you're gonna get deducted points for that because, we're not gonna be as likely to give you money for stuff if we're giving you money previously and you're not doing anything with it. So there's that. Then some information here specific to the types of projects you're applying for. So how is your fleet? The worse off your fleet is, the better you're gonna score because we clearly need to replace that and fix that right away. A couple of things, other things on here, replacement vehicles score better than expansion ones. Because as a whole, the program is focused on preservation over expansion. And then, for individual replacement vehicles here, older that vehicle is, the more miles it has on it, the better it's going to score. So, okay, if you're just barely meeting disposition requirements, you're not going to score as well as if it's, years older and has a lot more miles on it. So please just bear that in mind. Expansion vehicles, going to be doing more trips, more miles, it'll score better. But again, we will be looking at these types of things in the future to see, okay, are you just making up a number or did you actually, achieve that level of service with that vehicle? So please bear that in mind. And then projects, general capital projects here. Have you been successfully procuring things previously? Are you providing a lot of documentation as to why the project costs that amount? And how quickly will you complete it? similar things for bus shelters and facilities. But we also talked about, asking some scoring criteria based on, project readiness and, new projects and new facilities there versus, renovation of existing ones, which score better because, again, preservation as opposed to expansion. So again, and these are all similar things here for these as well. Have you done other procurements? If so, it's likely that you're going to be more able to complete procurements, new ones here as well. So scoring criteria, very similar to previous years, just a few minor tweaks to that. So those are the application documents there. We can come back to this and, again, a couple of things for this real quick. If you want to receive, state money for any 5339 projects, you need to apply for it through the OTP2 application and indicate that you're doing so on the 5339 application. You can request the same project as well on both 5339 and OTP2, but you're only going to get it one place. So if you want to increase your chances of, getting a replacement vehicle or getting a project, capital project funded there, you can apply for it in both places and just, indicate that you're doing so, and whichever one gets funded, and then the other one just won't be funded there. So any questions on this application document here?
So there were a few questions that came in.
Yeah.
The first question is, who do I contact for Black Cat login? This person's is showing as inactive.
Well, you're going to want to send an email there to Jokum Bean. He should be able to generate Black Cat logins for people for your organization there.
Okay. And then someone asked, are vehicle wraps considered a capital item, or are vehicle wraps considered a capital item eligible? We are planning for a rebranding, and this would be a piece of the effort.
If you want to apply for, like several vehicle wraps there, you should be able to do that as a capital project, yes.
Okay.
It's just, not part of the specific vehicle project anymore, so it wouldn't even be applied for as a separate project.
All right, the next question. Since the 2020 5339 program was extended due to COVID, will these be counted against us in points as incomplete?
No, because, contracts came out a little bit later, and then, COVID was a mess and still is, the period of performance for those was extended through the end of this year. So you have through the end of this year to get those all accomplished. So if you don't have something done yet, it's not going to qualify as an incomplete project.
And there are no other questions at this time.
All right. Glad to hear it. So hopefully that means that, things are being explained well here, and can kind of go from there. So we'll continue with the presentation here. So maybe. Next thing here is, selection process and awards. First of all, let's say 2021 was very, very unusual. CARES funding made things a lot different than expected. So the request here for 2021 here was about $12 million here. We funded $8.6 million worth. That's 71%. That is unbelievable. That is absolutely, not a normal thing at all. Please be aware of that. It was great that we're able to do this, give out 8.6 million, here for projects. Don't count on it happening again next year. Funding for 2022 is much more limited compared to last year's, well, this year's. And that's going to impact your project awards. Our normal appropriation for 5339 is only $3.5 million per year. So you can see right there for calendar year 2021 here, we awarded more than double the normal appropriation. So please be aware that just because you got a lot of things this year does not mean it's likely to happen again next year. Project selection will continue to be more competitive for future years. Please be aware of that. You were able to get a lot of stuff here this year because we wanted to be able to help people out because of COVID. And, because we had this money here through CARES, that's not going to be the same here in the future. Please be aware of that. So we're going to be looking at, you know, both project scores and program priorities here. Excuse me. Excuse me. So we're going to be looking at the scores of all these projects after I score them, and then looking at priorities, you know, vehicles and equipment and facilities there, in order to be determining which projects to be funded. We're looking at priorities based on, you know, program goals and statewide needs. We're focused on preservation rather than expansion, as well as ensuring statewide distribution of funds. So please be aware of that, and, you know, bear that in mind when we're looking at what projects get funded. So we want to ensure that, you know, there's a state of good repair for both our fleets and our assets. And so, you know, we'll be looking at, you know, replacement vehicles rather than expansion ones. You know, expansion projects can still be applied for and funded under 5339, but with our limited funding available, we want to make sure that, you know, the fleets and assets we have are in good condition compared to, you know, expanding everything and having it crumble around us. So please be aware of that. I think, you know, expansion projects may have a higher priority in the OTP 2 application as compared to 5339. So you may want to apply for some things there as well. So just something to bear that in mind for that. Some general, you know, scoring FAQs here. You know, first of all, you need to complete that general applicant information form in form stack, and then upload your certification there into Black Hat for that. Your authorizing resolution has to specify 5339. So you can use one authorizing resolution for all your programs. It just has to specify those programs in it. So the information there in your local match certification has to match your other forms there. So, you know, your vehicle cost worksheets there, you know, your cost estimates form there, these should all match the same. Same thing with your project cost totals. The project in Black Hat should match the, you know, local match certification form, should match the vehicle cost worksheet, should match the cost estimates form. Please, these should all, you know, line up together there. You shouldn't say project costs, you know, $50,000 on one form, $60,000 on another, and $40,000 on another. That clearly indicates there's a problem there, and you didn't check everything. So bear that in mind. Other things, you know, make sure your vehicle data in your application packet there matches the vehicle data in your Black Hat inventory. So all vehicles to be replaced, you know, all those different vehicle questions there need to be completely filled out. If it's not all filled out for the individual projects, I will be sending it back, and you'll have to correct that before you can get that scored. Please bear that in mind. Again, use the grand total cost amount there from the vehicle cost worksheet. And vehicle projects need to be separated. Each vehicle project should have one project in Black Hat and one project on a vehicle cost worksheet. So if you're applying for 5 vehicles there, you have 5 individual vehicle projects attached to your Black Hat application and 5 separate vehicle cost worksheets. Please bear that in mind. For your non-vehicle projects here, you're gonna have to complete both the cost estimates form and the ICE form. You know, timeline form will be used to show how soon after contract award, you know, the project will begin and end. So if the contract gets delayed, you'll have more time to complete it because you couldn't start before then. Local match amounts here on your local match certification. Use dollar figures rather than percentages. I know it's going to be 80-20. I want to know the exact dollar amount that's going to be coming from different areas. So please bear that in mind. Some things need signature or governing body approval or both. You know, your application packet, your application checklist, your general information certification there, the local match certification. You know, all these need to be signed by your authorized individual. Your assurances needs both a signature and an attorney signature. Your authorizing resolution needs to be approved by your governing body. So several things need to be taken care of. So you might want to make sure you have these done and don't wait till the last minute for any of them. And then, you know, program cycle here, you know, here's where we are now. It's the application workshop here. Going to move to the application period, reviews and award announcements. And then, you know, next year's when you'll be doing your projects. So applications can be released here at the end of March. You're gonna have about 5 weeks to do it. Application review is gonna be, you know, May through the beginning of June here. And so we're gonna be reviewing all your applications, doing our internal approvals here. we're making award announcements here in July and sending out, award letters to everybody saying, hey, yes, you've got money. So later in the year, we'll be working on, federal grants there. And then end of the year here, we'll be doing contracts. They'll need both signed by an authorized official and, signed by your attorney there. And then, next year we'll be bidding new projects. So that is our program cycle and the next things that are going to be happening. Any questions here on this?
We had one question come in, and it says, should we again apply on both the 5339 and the OPT2?
You can if you want to. It's not absolutely that you have to, but it does increase the likelihood that you'll get awarded projects if you apply for them through both programs. Please just indicate that you're applying, that this is also applied for on the other application. So that way we know it's the same project and there's not any questions of you getting awarded it twice. So just mention that, in a description of the project or something like that, that you're applying for as well on the, OTP2 or 5339 application if you're doing it both places. But yes, you can apply for them in both programs.
There are no other questions in the questions pod.
All right. If no one has any other questions about this or anything for 5311 there, we will be wrapping up here today. Appreciate everyone joining us here this morning and giving us your valuable time here. I know you guys are busy and have a lot going on. So thank you for taking the time here this morning to listen to me and Todd talk here about our programs and what's going to be necessary for the applications. Hopefully a copy of this webinar should be going out to you guys along with copies of the 5311 and 5339 PowerPoint presentations here. You can take a look at those. And then feel free to contact either me or Todd if you have questions about our specific programs.
I'm also going to add that the OPT2 webinar is going to be on Thursday at 9 a.m. I sent the registration link to everyone via the chat and in the questions response pod, so those who have an interest in that can sign up to attend. Other than that, Todd, Alex, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Of course. Everyone have a great day.